Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Practical and Healing Applications of A Course in Miracles with me, Rebecca Quinn. Thank you for joining this broadcast. And on this broadcast, as always, we are going to be studying from a curriculum called A Course in Miracles that I have been teaching for and studying for 40 years now. It's my passion, and it's my passion because it works. The stated purpose of A Course in Miracles is peace of mind, and it delivers on its purpose. It delivers on what it promises. And so that is why I study A Course in Miracles. And now I'm about to go put this on Facebook as well, so that we are broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube. There we go. All right. So, thank you for joining us. And what we're going to be doing today is what we do all the time on this broadcast is we are going to be reading from A Course in Miracles. We're going to actually be reading from the book, and we're going to be talking about what it means, what it's really saying, and how to use these ideas right now so that you can experience the miracles that come from the application of these ideas. Like I always say, they don't call it A Course in Miracles for nothing. These ideas are powerful and loving and true, but you do not have to believe them to use them and to experience the miracles that come from the use of them. So, in this section today, I particularly want to remind you of what A Course in Miracles itself gives as its guidelines for studying it. So, the guidelines that A Course in Miracles itself gives for studying this is it tells you right in the beginning of the workbook, you don't need to believe these ideas. You don't need to welcome these ideas. Some of these ideas you will find hard to believe. Some of these ideas you may actively resist. And then it says, but this does not matter. It doesn't matter if you don't believe them. It doesn't matter if you resist them. It doesn't matter if you find them hard to believe or startling. It doesn't matter. What matters is if you will try them out, if you will use them, just use them, as A Course in Miracles itself teaches you how to use them. So remember that as we go through our topic tonight, because this is a topic that is very important, but very, very difficult to believe. And so we're going to talk about what is sickness, or how is healing accomplished? How is healing accomplished? And what A Course in Miracles has to say about sickness and healing is very hard to believe and very startling, especially if you are experiencing sickness in any shape or form, body, mind, or spirit, right? What we've learned about what sickness is and what we've learned about what healing is the exact opposite of how healing is really accomplished. And that's why so often we don't experience the healing that we're seeking, no matter how many things and modalities that we're trying, right? You know, those things that you suffer with, that you've tried this and you've tried that and you've tried this and you've tried that. What we've learned about healing from the world in the past is just symptom relief. Okay, so what goes for healing in the world is just symptom relief, is what A Course in Miracles has to say about healing. So what A Course in Miracles has to say about sickness and healing is going to be the exact opposite. And I do mean the exact opposite of everything you have ever heard about what sickness is, where it comes from, and how healing is accomplished. So get ready, be ready and prepared to hear something you've never heard before, right? If what if everything that you've heard before about what sickness is and what healing is has not accomplished the healing you desire, then that means you haven't heard the answer yet. So don't be surprised when the answer to the healing, to the sickness, is something you haven't heard before, because the answer's got to be something you hadn't heard before if you haven't experienced the healing yet, right? The healing's got to be something that you hadn't thought of yet for it to be truly an answer to the sickness. All right. Well, thank you, Naya. Naya says, I love your get up, looking good, and nice to see you. I'm ready for today's lesson. Me too. Thank you for being here, Naya, and saying that. That feels so good to hear, and it's so encouraging, especially when I'm about to share stuff that is very hard to believe. And if there's anything in the course that would bring up resistance, besides the relationship stuff, this would be it today. So, get comfortable, get some popcorn, get your tea or your coffee or whatever, and just relax and get ready to hear something that you never heard before, that you have resistance to, but will work if you use it anyway. All right. So I'm going to show you where we're at. And where we are at is in the teacher's manual if you want to follow along. The teacher's manual is the third book in the curriculum called A Course in Miracles. And this teacher's manual seeks to answer a lot of questions that come up for students who have gone through the text and the workbook and who are now learning more about what it means to share these ideas. Of Course in Miracles says that if you want to learn these ideas, it comes from sharing these ideas, which really means demonstrating these ideas. Not talking about the ideas, but demonstrating. The Course in Miracles tells us what teaching really is, what it really means to be a teacher of love and truth and healing is it means you're a demonstrator. It doesn't mean you're saying anything. It means you're demonstrating, consistently choosing truth over illusions. You're consistently choosing love over fear. That's what it means to really teach these ideas. And the Course in Miracles tells us that if you want to learn something, the way you learn something is not you go to school and read a lot of books. The way you learn something is to share it, is to teach it to others, to help others to understand it, to help others to hear it. So in the teacher's manual, the author of the course is talking to us about, well, what does it mean to share these ideas? What does it mean to demonstrate these ideas so that you can teach these ideas so you can learn them? Now, where we're at is in the teacher's manual, question number 5, and I forgot to put in number 5 here, so let me do that. Question number 5. Okay, great. All right. Okay, that's where we're at. And the title of this section is How is Healing Accomplished? So we're going to be talking about how is healing accomplished. Okay. Now, when we're talking about healing here, we're not just talking about physical illness or physical pain, physical suffering. The Course in Miracles says that healing essentially is the release from fear. So what we suffer from, the sicknesses that we suffer from, are essentially some form of fear and guilt. And healing is for, healing. What the healing we're talking about is the healing of any place that we're suffering. So it's not just the healing of anything physical symptoms, but it's talking about the healing of body, mind, and spirit, so that your mind is free from fear and guilt, and your spirit is free, and that your body is a healthy, serviceable instrument. Okay, so healing is around any place where you're suffering. So we're going to be talking about what sickness really is, what suffering really is, and that goes for all forms of suffering or sickness, body, mind, or spirit. So the first thing I want you to do as we begin is to think about, where is it right now that you are suffering? Where is it you're experiencing a lack of peace? Where is it you are experiencing dis-ease, body, mind, or spirit? That is where you are in need of healing, okay? You are in need of healing wherever it is that you're not experiencing peace and joy and abundance, body, mind, or spirit. So I want you to bring that to your awareness. And I want you to see if you can apply these ideas to that area of your life right now where you are experiencing a lack of peace, a lack of joy. Uh, and and remember, you don't have to believe one single word of this. You don't have to welcome it. You may indeed find it quite startling. You absolutely may disagree with it. You may actively resist these ideas. You may find yourself going, I am not going to watch this. You may find yourself actively resisting these ideas about what is healing and what is the true nature of sickness. And that is okay, right? Don't tell yourself that you're not getting it and you never will. Don't tell yourself that. Just know that you're going to resist it, right? If you didn't have any resistance to these ideas about healing, then you'd probably already be healed. The fact that you're not healed in certain areas of your life means that you've got resistance to the ideas that produce healing, that produce peace and joy and abundance, right? So don't be surprised if you have resistance to these ideas. We know you have resistance to these ideas because that's where sickness comes from. Resistance to the truth of the matter about our experience. All right. Okay. So we're in Teacher's Manual, How is Healing Accomplished? And that's Teacher's Manual question number 5. All right, here we go. Now, how is healing accomplished? And guys, let me know if you can hear me okay. Let me know if the music's too loud. Okay. How is healing accomplished? How is the healing of this problem accomplished? That's what I want to know. And that's what this section is answering. How is this problem accomplished? How is the healing of this problem, this suffering accomplished? Well, it says healing. Thank you, Greg. Oh, music is low. Okay, great. Excellent. That's what I need to know. Thank you. Okay. And then, of course, let me know if it ever gets too loud. Okay. Let's see what happened to my music. Come on. Okay, there we go. All right, can hear you. Beautiful. Okay. And then I just turned up my music. Let me know if it's too loud at any point. All right, here we go. Here's the first thing that we don't believe about healing, but that really does produce healing. It says healing involves an understanding of what the illusion of sickness is for. So, what is sickness for? It says sickness is an illusion, which means it says sickness is not your truth. It is not your reality. Sickness is not your truth. It's not your reality. It's not real. That's what that means. And healing involves an understanding of what this sickness is for. What is this sickness for? What is this suffering for? Okay, that's the first thing that we don't believe. That this sickness, this suffering is something that's not true, that is serving a purpose. So the sickness is not an accident. The sickness has a payoff that we are getting from it. And if the sickness wasn't serving a purpose, if the suffering wasn't serving a purpose of some kind, then we would say no to it. So That's the first thing that it wants us to hear about what healing is. It is an understanding of what the illusion of sickness is for. Healing is impossible without understanding what this sickness, what this suffering is for. That is, healing is impossible without understanding the purpose that this problem is serving. So, you've heard it said before, I'm sure, that in each problem, there's some kind of payoff, right? So this is telling us that you would only experience sickness if there was some kind of payoff, right? And now I know that it seems like sickness just comes out of the blue. It doesn't seem like sickness is a decision. It's serving a purpose where I'm getting a payoff from it. Of course, it doesn't seem like that, right? But this is letting us know that that's what's going on really with the sickness. Now, if everything you have been trying to reduce your suffering has not reduced the suffering, that has to mean that you have not heard the answer yet. You haven't identified the correct truth about the problem, and you haven't heard the answer, the true answer to the problem. So remember that the answer to this problem, the thing that will decrease and end the suffering around this problem, is going to be something you had not thought of yet. So don't be surprised. Don't be like, well, I don't agree with that. Well, the answer to this problem's got to be something you haven't heard of yet, or else your problem would have been answered by now. So don't be expecting to hear something about this problem that you already thought of. Okay, your problem will only end, the suffering will only end when you hear something you hadn't thought of yet, or else your problem would have already been gone. So what do we hear? Healing involves an understanding of what sickness is for, what the suffering is for, and healing is impossible without this. That's what we've heard so far. All right. So then the name of the section number 1 is the perceived purpose of sickness. We're saying sickness can't occur unless there's some kind of payoff to the purpose that it's serving. And what is that perceived purpose in sickness? What is that payoff in sickness? Well, it says healing is accomplished the instant that the sufferer no longer sees any value in pain. Wow. Are you saying, Course in Miracles, that this problem, this suffering, this sickness will end the moment, the instant that I no longer see any value in this pain, in this suffering, in this sickness, in this problem? Is that what you're saying, Course in Miracles? I'm experiencing this pain, this suffering, because I see value in pain. I see value in suffering. But the instant that I go, there's no more value to me in this suffering, it's a drag. It's actually, there is no real payoff here. There is no value to me in this problem, in this pain. The instant that me, the sufferer, sees that the instant the sufferer no longer sees any value in the pain, it is gone. The sickness, the suffering, the problem is gone. I see no more value in this. I've wasted enough time on this. I've shed enough tears on this. And what did it get me? What did it get me? Did it get me more peace, joy, and abundance? Did it get me more loving relationships? Did it? Well, obviously the answer is no. Now, maybe the payoff was I got to suffer. And so other people felt guilty enough to do what I wanted them to do. That might be the payoff there, right? But the moment that we say, I see no more value in this pain, I see no more value in this suffering, here I am, I've been crying and suffering, and what good has come of it? It hasn't made me happier. It hasn't made me healthier. It hasn't drawn more loving relationships to me. It's costing me a lot. This problem, this pain, this sickness, this suffering, body, mind, or spirit has cost me too much. It hasn't brought me anything of any real value. And I no longer see any value in this pain, in this problem. And the instant that I see that, the instant that problem, that suffering, that sickness is gone, according to A Course in Miracles. All right. Zen says the value of the suffering is to help you realize there's no value in suffering. Absolutely. Absolutely beautiful. That is true. That is true. Because up until now, we have seen value in suffering. We've seen value in pain. We don't like to admit that. But when you really are honest with yourself and you really ask yourself, what is the payoff here in my suffering? When you really look deeply and honestly into it, you'll see that you have been using your suffering to get something, and one of the obvious things that we all use suffering for is when we are suffering, typically people will feel guilty enough to do what we want them to do. And so, and we believe that happiness comes from people changing for us. We believe, if they were just different, I'd be happy. And so there's value to that for us. Now, it's not true, and it's never worked to make us happy. When was the last time you made somebody feel guilty enough to change with your suffering, and they change? They go, okay, I'll sacrifice for you for that, so you won't suffer anymore. And you actually stop suffering. When was the last time that's ever happened? Where you got somebody to change for you by showing them how you were suffering by their behavior. They changed their behavior, but your suffering didn't stop. Now you're upset and suffering about something else. So it doesn't work. Suffering does not accomplish what the ego tells you that it will. It doesn't accomplish more love. It doesn't accomplish more freedom. It doesn't accomplish more joy. It doesn't accomplish people wanting, feeling closer to us. It doesn't accomplish what we were hoping that it would, right? So the payoff, in other words, for the suffering, for the sickness, is an illusion. There ain't no real payoff, right? Even what you think it's going to get you, which is people feeling guilty enough to change for you, that's that still doesn't make you happy. And anybody who changes for you because you're suffering is somebody who that's a change, that's a sacrifice they were making out of coercion. So that wasn't a real change. And as soon as you're not looking, then they're going to go back to doing whatever they were doing. So it doesn't work. That's why the Course in Miracles in the first paragraph here called sickness an illusion, right? It's an illusion of a solution that really doesn't work. In the next few paragraphs, it calls sickness a faulty problem-solving approach. You think it's got a good payoff, but in the end, it does not accomplish what you hope that it will. Okay. So then it says, now who would choose to suffer unless they thought the suffering brought them something and something of value to them? That's really deep. The Course is saying here that if you didn't think that your suffering was going to bring you something of value, then you would never choose to suffer. It says you never choose to suffer unless you see that it's going to get you something that you value. Wow. And if it's not going to get you the value you think that it will, then you're just not going to choose to suffer, right? Now, then it says that we must think that suffering is a small price to pay for something of greater worth. The only way we would consent to suffer, choose to suffer, is if we thought that the suffering was a small price to pay for something of greater worth. Like we were talking about, we believe that the thing of greater value that our suffering would purchase for us is that people will feel guilty enough to do what we want them to do. That's the thing of greater value, that we think that suffering is a small price to pay for that. So now, just remember what the Course in Miracles says. It says, you do not need to believe these ideas. We know you don't believe these ideas, as evidenced by the suffering. So don't be sitting here being like, well, I don't know about that, and I don't know about that, and I definitely don't believe that. Don't be concerned that you don't believe these ideas, that these ideas are not welcomed, that you have resistance to these ideas. Of course, you have resistance to these ideas. Of course, you don't welcome them. That's why you got the suffering. If you believe these ideas already, you wouldn't be experiencing suffering. So enjoy the fact that you're hearing something finally that's different, okay? Because now that you're hearing something that's totally different about sickness and healing, maybe now there is a chance to experience the end of your suffering around this sickness or this problem. All right? Okay. Remember, to have a miracle of healing, which means a reduction of suffering, it just comes from using these ideas, not believing them, not welcoming them, just using them. Okay? Using them even if you don't believe them. That's where the miracles of healing come from in this curriculum. And then it says, because sickness is an election. Sickness is an election. What's an election? It's a decision. That's what sickness is. It's an election. It's a decision. A sickness is a choice of weakness in the mistaken conviction that weakness is strength. Now, just like we were talking about, if I be weak, then that will give me strength, because my weakness will produce a feeling of guilt in others that will force them to do what I want them to do. So I'll choose weakness, and then they will feel guilty and do my script for what I believe would make me happy. Okay. So sickness is a choice for weakness in the mistaken conviction that the sickness makes you strong somehow. If I make them feel guilty about being responsible for my happiness, then maybe they won't leave me, and then I'll be happy. It's a decision. It's a choice of weakness in the mistaken conviction that suffering is strength. All right. Now, when this occurs, that I am convinced that my weakness and my suffering is really a strength because it gets me what I want. When this occurs, then real strength is seen as threat, which means health is seen as danger. If I'm healthy and happy and abundant and free, then who's going to feel guilty enough to do what I want them to do? In other words, if I'm happy and healthy and wealthy, then really I'm weak, I believe, because nobody would feel guilty enough to do what I want them to do. Okay. So in other words, Now I see sickness, and now I see health as dangerous. Wow. If you believe that your sickness, your suffering, your pain is a strength because it gets you what you want from people, then the idea of not suffering, not being unhappy is seen as a danger to you. And so these ideas from A Course in Miracles would seem dangerous to you. And that's why people would not be interested in these ideas, even though these ideas produce, if you use them, miracles of strength and healing, happiness, health, and wealth. Because people see strength in suffering. They see there's a payoff for them in suffering. And so anything that would end their suffering must be a danger to their program, to their agenda, to their script. Right? And that's why we don't like these ideas, even though they're true and even though they work to produce miracles of joy and peace and abundance. All right. Okay. So you guys, if you wouldn't mind, liking, sharing, and subscribing, that would so help this channel. It would also help the algorithms to push this content out to more people. And what does our world need more than this content? So by you liking, sharing, and subscribing, you are literally helping more people on earth to hear these ideas, right? So thank you for doing that. And the world thanks you for doing that. All right. Okay. And also, thank you for your super chats if you do that on YouTube. Really appreciate that. Okay. Now, then it says, sickness is a method. Sickness is a method conceived in madness for placing yourself on God's throne. I am God. I say what is. That's what sickness is. It's a method conceived in madness for placing yourself on God's throne. But now you're the one who says what is so and what is real and what is true, even though you obviously don't know because you're not happy and you're suffering. But that sickness is, I am the author of reality. What I believe is true is true. What is true is what I want to be true. That's what sickness is. It's a method conceived of in madness for placing yourself on God's throne, where you can be the author of reality yourself. That's what sickness is. Now, if you are wanting to be the author of reality, and you want to kick God off the throne of that and put yourself on the throne as author of reality, then how do you suppose that God, the real author of reality, is going to look to you? Do you suppose that you're going to be like, hey, God, what's up? No, if you have kicked God off the throne of reality and put yourself on the throne as author of reality, you're going to see God as out there fierce and powerful and angry and keep all power for himself. That's how you're going to see God. If you want to be the author of reality and decide what reality is, then you're obviously going to see God as your enemy. You know, you're going to assume that God's mad that you kicked God off the throne to be God, right? Now, of course, God's not concerned about that because you can't do it. God's not angry. God's not mad that you want to be God, where you are the author of reality through your judgment. God's not concerned at all. But you can't help but assume that God is angry at you. You can't help but assume that God is, angry and looking for vengeance. All right. So now I'm going to skip the next paragraph just because it's kind of a long section. I want to get to it. And what I just said about what sickness is, method conceived of madness of kicking God off the throne so that you can be the author of reality. But then now you got to see God as trying to get his throne back. So you can't help but project onto God that God is looking for you and that God is angry. So you can't help but see God as angry and looking to settle the score somehow. So you can't be wanting to be the author of reality, be God, kick God off the throne, and not think that God's angry with you and now fear God. So, all right, that's where the fear of God comes from. It's like I've been trying to be God. I've been trying to be the author of reality. All my judgment is me trying to be the author of reality, right? That's all my judgment is. I know what's true. I know what their reality is. I know what should be happening here. I know what this means. That's what judgment is. So every time you judge, then you are acting like you are assuming a position you don't have. You are kicking God off God's throne, usurping God's throne, and putting yourself on that throne as if you are the author of reality yourself. And you just can't do that without assuming that God's pissed and coming for you to settle the score. That's how fear of God comes to be, right? Now, if you weren't trying to do that through judgment, then you would not fear God. You would know God is only love. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, so thank you for that. We'll leave that up for now. All right. Actually, I'm going to put back on here where we're at. Here. Nope, not that one. Not that one, even though that's good. Well, I guess that I just deleted it. I guess I just deleted that. All right, so then I'll put this back up. All right, so we're in Teacher's Manual, question number 5. I'm going to go ahead and just put that back in here. Let's see. Let me do that just so everybody knows. ACINTM number 5. Okay. Hold on, guys. Number 5. Oh, nope. 5. All right. Great. Okay. Just so you know. All right, everybody. Okay. Thank you. Okay, beautiful. Okay, here we go. We're in section number 2. The shift in perception. So healing is a shift in perception. Would you like a healing in this situation? Would you like to experience no suffering, no sickness in this situation? Would you like to experience the undoing of your sickness, of your suffering? It comes from a shift in perception. That's what A Course in Miracles says a miracle is. You were seeing the situation one way, and now you've had a shift, and now you're seeing the situation in a different way, and you're experiencing peace where you had been experiencing suffering. That's what a miracle is. It's a shift in perception. So now we're going to talk about the shift in perception that enables you to go from suffering and sickness to peace. Okay. All right, here it goes. Healing must occur in exact proportion in which the valuelessness of the suffering is recognized. So to the extent to which you recognize this suffering is valueless, it's not really getting me anything, really real value to me, to that exact proportion do you experience the undoing of the suffering, which is the healing. Wow. And somebody need only say to themselves, there's no gain at all to me in this suffering. And they are healed of that suffering. That's all anybody needs to say about their suffering, about this problem, about this sickness, body, mind, or spirit. There is no gain to me in this suffering. And then they are healed. But to say there is no gain at all to me in this suffering, in this sickness, you must first recognize certain facts. Okay. So I want to look upon this problem, this suffering, this sickness, and go, there's no gain at all to me in this. I'm tired of suffering in this. I'm tired of being sick in this. There is no gain to me. It's not bringing me the love. It's not bringing me the joy. It's not bringing me the security. It's not bringing me the abundance. It's not bringing me the loving relationships. There's no gain to me at all in the way that I am suffering right now. Okay, it's nobody's using it anymore to let me control them. You know, here I am suffering, and they're not letting me control them anymore. So here I am suffering, and nobody's changing for me. They're not doing what I want them to do. There is no gain at all to me in this suffering anymore. And the instant that you say that is what it says, to that extent are you healed of that sickness, of that suffering. Love it. Hi, Shahira. Shahira says, blessings, mighty companions. Lovely to see you, dear. Thank you for being here. Now, but to say there is no gain at all to me in this suffering anymore, you've got to recognize certain facts. Okay, here's fact number one that you got to recognize before you're able to even go, there's no gain at all to me in this suffering, in this problem. The first fact that you got to recognize before you're able to really say that and mean it is this. The first fact is that it is obvious that decisions are of the mind. So that's the first thing. Decisions are of the mind and not of the body. This is the first fact that one must recognize in order to say and mean there is no gain at all to me in this suffering, and then be healed from it. Okay. He says the first fact is that decisions are of the mind and not of the body. So, and if sickness is but a faulty problem-solving approach, then sickness is a decision. What is sickness? Nothing but a faulty problem-solving approach. It's a decision, right? It's like we say about anger. You know what we say about anger, that anger is a decision that, oh, well, if I drink this poison, somebody else will die, right? Well, that's a decision. So if that's what anger is, I'm going to drink this poison that does hurt me, hoping that they will die, the person I have a grievance with, then that means that the sickness is a decision. So that's the first fact that we must recognize so that we can say there is no gain at all to me in this suffering and this sickness, and then we experience the healing. Sickness is of decisions are of the mind. Sickness is a decision of the mind. Sickness is a faulty problem-solving approach. I'll suffer, but they will suffer more, and they will change, and I'll be happy. That is a faulty problem-solving approach. I'll hurt myself, and then they will feel guilty enough to do what I want them to do in the dream of what I dream my life is meant to be, what I believe will make me happy. That is a faulty problem-solving approach. Now, remember that this decision to suffer so that somebody else will feel guilty enough to do what you want them to do, thinking that that will make you happy, that is all unconscious. So remember that. What we're talking about, this belief that sickness has a payoff, this plan, I'll suffer, and then they will do what I want them to do, and I'll be happy. That's all unconscious. That's all unconscious. Very unconscious. Consciously, we're like, oh, look, this mysterious sickness just happened to me. This problem just happened to me out of the blue. I was just doing nothing but having a good time and loving everybody completely. That's all I was doing. And then this problem, this sickness, this suffering just came out of the blue and attacked me. Okay. That's what we believe about our problems. That's why our problems have not been solved. That's why they haven't been healed, is because we believe a lie about them. Right. But unconsciously, we did make a decision to suffer so that we could get something from that. Okay. We did make a decision to be unhappy so that somebody would feel guilty enough to do what we wanted them to do. But remember that this decision, this faulty problem solving approach at this moment is mostly unconscious. So what I'm talking to you about is not a conscious thing. It's not conscious. So don't, if you're not aware of it, then remember, because it's unconscious. The Course in Miracles says that the way we made the sickness is we made that decision to suffer, thinking it would get us a payoff of some kind. We made that decision, and then we forgot about it. We forgot about it in an instant that we made that decision. So he says, because of the speed by which we made that decision, that's why we don't remember making that faulty problem solving decision to suffer, thinking it would get us something. That's why we don't remember making that. But the Course in Miracles says you don't need to remember it. You don't need to remember making it. You don't need to remember making that decision. All you need to do is believe what this is saying and act like it's true, and then act accordingly. And then you will get the healing miracle. And then you will see. The Course says, then you will remember making that decision to be sick. Then you'll remember. So first you hear the truth, and then apply the truth, and then act like it's true. And then you will remember, oh yeah, I remember. Remember how when you were a little kid and you wanted to get out of something, remember when you were a little kid and you wanted to get out of something and you would all of a sudden be sick. Okay. Who hasn't done that? Who doesn't remember that? Okay. Who hasn't, when they wanted to, what's the word? Mitigate the punishment of their parents when they did something they felt guilty about, didn't hurt themselves first to show their parent how they were already suffering so that their parent would have mercy on them. I remember seeing that a lot. I was that as a kid. I was sick all the time because I didn't want to go to school. For starters, I hated school. And consequently, I was sick a lot, right? And being sick had a great payoff for me. I didn't have to go to school. I hated school. So, and I remember when my daughter, was feeling guilty about something, I remember then she would like trip over something or get hurt somehow and cry, because she was doing what kids do, hurt themselves so that their parent won't punish them, right? Because look at them, they're already suffering. So we all can remember doing that as children. We've all seen our children do it, but then when we got to be adults, it went it was not so obvious. It went underground. It went unconscious, right? You remember that, Naya? Yes, exactly. So we're still doing the same thing, but we have shoved it down into our unconscious, and where now we really feel and believe that we are a victim of what is happening to us. So now the suffering, it doesn't seem like a decision. It doesn't seem like a decision or an election at all. It seems like something that's happening to us. It really does seem like we are the victim of this. But of course, in Miracles is saying, it doesn't say some sicknesses are a decision, an election. It doesn't say some problems are a decision, an election. It doesn't say some suffering is a faulty problem-solving approach that we thought had a payoff. It says all of it, all suffering, all sickness. So don't try to believe it, just use it and see what happens. Okay? Yeah, beautiful. Shahira says, I resonate with that. And Naya says, oh, yes. Shahira says, I see it clearly. And Shahira also says, I'm making some new choices right now, fam. Beautiful. Yes. And Shahira says, I know that I unconsciously self-punished. Absolutely. Me too. Now that I'm not resisting the truth, now I see it all the time. I mean, still to this day, I notice when I'm having a feeling like, wow, I'm really exhausted, and I wish I had a day off, and oh my God, I'm so tired of doing this, blah, blah, blah. I just need I need a break. I need a vacation. What next thing you know, I've just come down with something. Oh, I don't feel well today. I guess I caught a cold, right? Now I'm able to connect it and go, I was looking for a little break. I really didn't want to go to that event. Now I'm sick. Now I don't feel good. Okay. So, anyway, like Jerry says, it's so easy to choose to be a victim. That's right. It seems so easy because that's the programming that we have received since birth, and for no telling how many lifetimes, no telling. Okay. So then it says, if sickness is but a faulty problem-solving approach, then sickness is a decision. And if sickness is a decision, then sickness is the mind and not the body that makes that decision. If sickness is but a faulty problem-solving approach, then sickness is a decision that the mind makes and not the body. So sickness comes from the mind. Sickness is not. What makes decisions? Does the body make decisions, or does the mind make decisions? What makes decisions? Of course, a miracle says the only thing that makes decisions is the mind. And then it's saying sickness is a decision, a faulty problem-solving approach. Okay, that means that it's the mind that makes that decision for sickness and not the body. My body did not make this decision. My body did not make the decision to suffer. My body did not make the decision to suffer this problem, this sickness. My body didn't make that decision. In other words, this problem, this suffering, this sickness is not coming from my body. It's not coming from the world. It's coming from my mind that made up a faulty problem-solving approach of a way that I thought would make me happy that didn't work, that didn't make me happy, didn't make me feel good. All right. Even if I don't believe it. Nai says, this lesson is useful with some challenges I have today as an adult. Yes, indeed. Beautiful. Yeah, it's like, we're learning as adults here that I don't need to punish myself just to get solutions. I don't need to suffer anymore with this to get a peaceful resolution here. I don't need to suffer anymore to get a peaceful resolution. For one thing, I don't want my way anymore. For starters, I don't want my way. I mean, honestly, the Course in Miracles, when you are experiencing suffering, the Course in Miracles asks you to really look at that situation and ask yourself, what is it that I am hoping will come of this? What is it that I wish would happen here? To really ask yourself that question and be honest with yourself, because that's the only way really to look at the payoffs that you believe that this suffering is serving you. Right. And when you go, well, what is it I really would like to happen here? What is it I'm going for here? What is it I'm hoping will happen here? Okay. That's where you're going to find your payoff, that you're unconsciously believing that this suffering offers you. All right. Beautiful. Beautiful. So teacher's manual number 5. Let's go here to do this. All right. Now it says, and if sickness is a decision, then sickness, it is the mind and not the body that makes this decision for sickness. Now the resistance to recognizing this is enormous. The resistance to recognizing that it's the mind that makes the decision for sickness and not the body is enormous, is gigantic. Why? Because the existence of the world as we see it depends on the body being the decision maker. I'll say that again. Why do we have so much resistance to the truth? That is the mind that's making the decision for sickness and not the body. Why is the resistance to recognizing this so enormous? It's because the existence of the world as we see the world, it depends on the body being the decision maker. That's why we have resistance to this idea. My whole world depends on my body, the body being the decision maker, not the mind. Okay? The whole world as I see it depends on the body being the source of the sickness, of the suffering. The whole world as I see it depends on the body, my body or their body being the source of this problem, and not my mind and the decisions I'm making in my mind to suffer. And terms like, quote, instincts or, quote, reflexes and the like, those terms just represent attempts to endow the body with non-mental motivators. That's what instincts and reflexes mean. I'm attempting to endow my body with non-mental motivators. I'm attempting to believe that my body is self-motivating, that my body decides what happens, not my mind. I'm trying to endow my body with non-mental motivators. I'm trying to make it such that what's going on is coming from my body, not my mind. But actually, such terms like instincts and reflexes merely state or describe the problem. They do not answer this problem here. The terms instincts and reflexes. So according to this, there are no instincts and reflexes that come from the body. The terms instincts and reflexes just me resisting the idea that everything I'm experiencing through my body is coming from a decision I made in my mind. All right. Okay. So now we're in paragraph 2 of the section 2. So it's section 2, paragraph 2 in Teacher's Manual, question number 5. How is healing accomplished? Okay. All right. Now we're in paragraph 2. Now, the acceptance of sickness as a decision of the mind for a purpose for which the mind alone would use the body is the basis of healing. And this is so for healing in all forms, body, mind, or spirit. What it's saying here is that a person decides that this is true, that sickness is a decision of the mind for which it's going to use the body. A person decides that is true, and that person recovers. That person is healed. Now, if somebody decides against that fact, that sickness is a decision of the mind for which the mind is using the body, if somebody decides against that fact, then this person doesn't experience recovery. They don't experience healing. Now, in this scenario, who is the physician? Only the mind of the patient or the person themselves. Who is the physician here? In this situation where you're experiencing suffering, where you're experiencing sickness or problems, who is the physician here in this situation? Only your mind, or only the mind of the person who is suffering. Only the mind of the person who is suffering is the physician. The outcome of this situation, this problem, this suffering, is what that person, the sufferer, decides that the outcome is. What's going to happen in this situation? More sickness or healing? It is the mind of the sufferer who decides what the outcome of this situation is. Only your mind is the physician. Only their mind is their physician. Only their mind decides whether their suffering is healed or whether they continue to suffer. Only the mind is the physician. Only your mind is your physician. Only their mind is their physician. The outcome is what you decide it is for you. Now, special agents may seem to be ministering to you or them, the sufferer. Special agents seem to be ministering to the sufferer, yet the special agents, aka medicines or whatever, they only give form to the sufferer's own choice. So, only your mind is the physician, only their mind is the physician in this situation. And even if special agents and medicines or treatments seem to be ministering to this person suffering, still the special agents, medicines, treatments, they are still only giving what? Giving form to the patient's own choice. Right. So I'm taking these supplements, I'm taking these medicines, I'm doing this treatment for healing. But the truth is these special healing ministering agents, medicine, that I'm using for healing are only going to give form to what I have decided. Do I want to experience healing, or do I want to suffer some more? That's all that special agents, medicines, and treatments are doing. Because who is the physician really? Is it the special agents, the medicine, the treatments? No. The physician of this person is only the mind of the sufferer themselves. Okay. And with this person, the patient or the sufferer chooses these special agents, these treatments, these medicines, The sufferer chooses these special agents only to bring tangible form to their desires. That's all. Okay. And it says, and it is this that your medicines, treatments, amulets, charms, all of the things that you are doing to solve your suffering, besides changing your mind, all these special agents are doing is giving form to your decision that you are making in your mind and nothing else. That's all they're doing. So these medicines, treatments, supplements, programs, whatever it is that you are doing physically to treat the suffering, all that those physical remedies are doing is but giving form to your decision, which only your mind is making. Do you want to be healed? Do you want to end this suffering or not? What are you deciding? What do you want? And the medicines and treatments are just going to give form to that. Now, these medicines, treatments, these special agents, these physical remedies that you are using for your suffering, they are not actually needed at all. What do you mean? Well, you, the sufferer, could merely rise up without these medicines and treatments and say, I have no more use for the suffering. I have no more use for suffering. I have no more use for suffering. You could just rise up without all these aids, these physical healing remedies, and say, I have no more use for these physical remedies. I have no more use for them because I have no more use for suffering. And then it says, and there is no form of sickness that would not be cured at once. Wow. Whew-wee. That's a very powerful statement. The sufferer who's using all these different remedies and physical remedies and medicines and treatments and so-called cures that are physical in nature, this person could rise up with all those medicines and all those treatments and say, I don't need these treatments anymore. I don't need these physical remedies anymore because I have no more use for this suffering. There's no more payoff in it to me. And there is no sickness, no form of sickness that would not be cured at once. Wow. So powerful, so powerful. All right, take a breath on that. Wow. So powerful. Okay, let's go back to where we're at. Okay. And if you're just joining us right now, we are in A Course in Miracles in the Teacher's Manual, question number 5, how is healing accomplished? We are in the second section. And now we're going to be in the third paragraph of the the third paragraph of the second section of the Teacher's Manual question, how is healing accomplished? Now, what is the single requisite for this shift in perception? This shift in perception, I have no more use for this suffering, and now I have no more use for these physical healing remedies. What is the single requisite for this shift in perception? It is simply this: the recognition that sickness is of the mind and that sickness has nothing to do with the body. That is the single requisite that is required for this shift in perception, where you see no more use in the physical remedies, in the physical medicines, because you see no more payoff in the suffering. Now, What does this recognition cost? What recognition? The recognition that sickness is of the mind and not of the body. What does this recognition cost? Oh, only the world you see. Only the whole world you see. Why? Because when you recognize that sickness is of the mind and has nothing to do with the body, then the world will never again appear to rule your mind. That's why the cost of this recognition that sickness is of the mind and not the body cost you the whole world you see. Because the whole world you see will never again appear to rule your mind. How would you like that? Doesn't that sound good? How scary is it to perceive and believe that the world you see rules your mind? That's why we're afraid of the world. That's why we're scared. That's why we're angry. We believe that we're victims of the world. It seems like the world tells me what I have to do, and it's not something I want to do. But that's scary. So, because then I feel like I'm a prisoner of the world. Now I'm a victim of the world. And so the cost of recognizing that all sickness is of the mind and has nothing to do with the body cost me the whole world I see. Because now the world will never appear to rule my mind. And that sounds good to me. That's what I want. I don't want to feel like a victim of the world anymore. I don't want to live in fear of the world anymore and feel like I'm a prisoner of this world. Do you? I don't want to feel like a prisoner of this world, like a victim of this world. And so that motivates me to say these ideas, to recognize these facts, even if I don't understand them and even if I don't believe them. It motivates me to go, all right, even though I don't see it or believe it or understand it, somehow the suffering I'm experiencing is a decision that I made in my mind because I thought there's going to be some payoff for me. Okay, there, I've said it. Okay, that is that's what brings me to the realization, oh, that is true. I did decide to suffer. I did make a decision for this suffering, this unhappiness. I did make a decision for this, believing that it would somehow get me what I wanted. First you say the truth over and over and over without believing it at all. Then you say it with some kind of recognition that it's true. And then eventually, then you will see that it's true. You won't have to believe it. You won't have to say it anymore without believing it. You'll realize, wow, that is really true. Even if you don't believe an idea, if it's a true idea, then when you use it, it will produce a miracle. It will produce a positive effect that you'll be able to see and experience. So, you recognize truth because when you use it, then it proves itself, right? So first we use the truth without believing it, and then it proves itself to us, right? But what we do to keep ourselves from the miracles of healing is we say, well, I'm not going to study these ideas and I'm not going to use them until I believe them. I'm not going to accept these ideas until I believe them. But you need them because you don't believe in them. So don't use that defense to keep you from utilizing the truth that is true, that does work. It does produce miracles of healing. Okay. The Shahir says, the truth is the truth always. Absolutely. And the truth, the truth is something that sets you free. We think of truth as like, oh, I don't want to hear the truth. I'm afraid of the truth. I don't want to hear the truth. But that's because we don't know what the truth is. The truth is something that always sets us free. Now, yes, it pisses our ego off at first, but the truth is something that only sets free. The truth is never something that hurts. The truth is never something that does harm. The truth is something, I may resist the truth because I'm afraid of it, but that doesn't mean that the truth is harmful or hurts. It doesn't. The truth is something that always sets you free. Recognizing that whatever suffering that you're experiencing is the decision of your mind, not of your body, that's something that sets you free, because you can always change your mind. And so if this problem is a decision of my mind, well, then heck yeah, then now there's hope, because I know I can change my mind. I do it all day long. So if this is coming from my mind, then there's hope, because I know I can change my mind. I do it all the time. And this Course in Miracles is a curriculum whose purpose is to help us change our mind so that we're thinking in alignment with what's true in reality, instead of thinking against it and suffering for it. All right. So now it says, let's see where I'm, okay, paragraph 3, right, and sentence 5. Because with this recognition that sickness is of the mind and not the body, is responsibility placed where it belongs, not with the world, but on the person who's looking on the world and seeing the world incorrectly, as it is not. You are looking on what you choose to see. When you're looking out onto the world, you're looking on what you choose to see. No more and no less. That's what the Course in Miracles tells us about what we're seeing when we look at the world. We're looking on what we choose to see, nothing more and no less. The world does nothing to us. The world does nothing to you. You only thought it did. Nor do you do anything to the world. Just like the world hasn't done anything to you, you just thought it did, nor have you done anything to the world, because you were mistaken about what the world is. So the world hasn't done anything to you because the world doesn't know what you are. And you haven't done anything to the world because you don't know what the world is. So all that you're feeling victimized by what the world has done to you has never been done. And all that you are feeling guilty about what you think and what you have done to the world is something you never really did, because you were mistaken about what the world is. I love that. It says the world does nothing to you. You only thought it did. Nor do you do anything to the world, because you were mistaken about what the world is. And herein is your release from guilt and sickness both. The world has not done anything to me. The world's not doing anything to me, and I'm not doing anything to the world. That is your release from sickness and guilt both, because sickness and guilt are one. Yet to accept this release from sickness and guilt as one, the insignificance of the body must be an acceptable idea. Whew. Okay. I want to be released from sickness and guilt, both of them. I want to be released from sickness and guilt, both. Okay. How does that happen? Well, if you want to accept release from sickness and guilt, both, then you've got to accept the idea that the body is insignificant, that the sickness and the guilt, it ain't coming from the body, that the body's insignificant, is not doing anything, is not producing any sickness or guilt. That idea must be acceptable to you. Now, notice it didn't say you must believe it completely in order to experience the release from sickness and guilt both. It just says if you want to be released from sickness and guilt both, it says then the idea that the body is insignificant, meaning not the cause, must be an acceptable idea. Is it an acceptable idea? Didn't say you had to believe it fully, just that it would be an acceptable idea, right? That the body's insignificant. And what's going on here, the world is insignificant and my body is insignificant. What's going on here, this suffering, this problem, has nothing to do with the world or my body. It has only to do with my mind and the decisions that I am making with my mind. In this suffering, in this problem, my body is insignificant. The world is insignificant. The only thing that's the real cause of my suffering here is the decision I am making in my mind about whether I want to suffer or not, because there's a payoff for it or not. All right, and love it. Hi, Techno Girl, lovely to see you. Hi, Jean, and hi, Tony. That's right. I'm preaching it. I am preaching it tonight. Now, okay, so now it says, with this idea of the insignificance of the body, is pain forever gone. Oof. Do you have any pain that you would like to be forever gone? Not just gone for a day, not just gone for a week, not just gone for a year, not even gone, just gone for 10 years. Do you have some pain you would like to be forever gone? Well, when you accept that idea that your body and the world is insignificant in what you're going through, what you're going through is only coming from a decision in your mind. With this idea, is pain gone forever? Wow. But with this idea that the body is insignificant in what's going on with you, so goes all confusion about creation. So not only is your pain go, but all your confusion about creation. What is creation? What is creative? What's creating this? All also goes. Does not this follow of necessity? In other words, if you place cause and effect in their true sequence in one respect, then your learning will generalize and it will transform the world. All right. It says, and the transfer value of one true idea has no end or limit. And that's why the final outcome of this lesson is the remembrance of God. What is this lesson? It is the insignificance of the body and the insignificance of the world in terms of what you are experiencing. You know, this lesson is placing cause and effect in true order and experiencing the miracles of the peace and the joy and the freedom that come from that, where the cause is the mind, what you're deciding, and the effect is what you're experiencing in the world. And and once you have remembered God, because you've placed cause and effect in their true sequence, and you've recognized that sickness is only of the mind and has nothing to do with the body, well, what do guilt and sickness, pain, disaster, and all suffering mean now? What do you need it for now? Now that you know that it's only your mind that's producing your experience, then what do you need the suffering for? I was only making the suffering because I thought I needed that to get me something in the world. But if the only thing I'm experiencing is coming from my mind, then I don't need sickness anymore. I don't need pain and suffering anymore to get me something. I don't need that anymore because I have the one creative, most powerful creative device in my mind. I can just ask for what I want. I don't need to suffer and have pain and be sick anymore to get what I want. I don't have to suffer anymore to get what I want, because I can choose to experience what I want with my mind. I don't need to suffer to get something anymore. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. Yes. And then Techno Girl says, what about someone who suffers with the guilt of an STI? I don't know what that is. A guilt of an STI. Tell me what that is, Techno Girl. Suffers with a guilt of STI. I don't know what that is, but clarify so I can help you to apply this. Okay. And then Tony says, oh, an STD. Oh, okay, gotcha. All right. Okay. Okay. So let's apply that to what about someone who suffers with the guilt of an STD? Okay. So that is considered a sickness, and so we want to tell ourselves the truth. You want to tell yourself the truth. They want to tell themselves the truth. This STD is a decision of my mind for which I am using the body. This STD is not coming from the world or from somebody else or from my body. It's coming from a decision in my mind or their mind for which they are using their body. And the experience of this suffering and this sickness has nothing to do with the world. It has nothing to do with my body. And so I am going to use my mind to decide that I want to recognize that only my mind is the cause here of anything that I am experiencing. So recognizing, like it says, you want to tell yourself, the world has done nothing to me. Or you want to say, their body has done nothing to me. I only thought that it did. And it says, herein is the release from guilt and sickness both, for they are one. To accept this release from sickness and guilt, realizing that it wasn't the world that did it to me or that I did it to them, it says that is the release from the sickness and the guilt. And so here it's saying sickness and guilt are one. So if you want to let go of the sickness, it comes from letting go of the guilt, right? And letting go of the guilt is realizing, according to this, that the sickness, the suffering isn't being done to you, nor is it something that you have done to someone else, because the only thing you are experiencing and the only thing they are experiencing is something that they have decided and that you have decided to experience with your mind. Why? Because your ego told you, because we learned that sickness is the way to get what you want. So that is what this is saying. So that is a great question. Thank you for taking the risk to ask that question. I really appreciate that. And, this section is perfect for that and any other sickness or suffering that we experience, because it is telling us the truth. It seems like maybe somebody gave you that STD. It seems like maybe you have given that. But this is saying that is saying that the world does nothing to us, and we're doing nothing to the world. We only thought it did. And the truth is that I'm not suffering from what someone has done to me, nor am I suffering from what I have done to somebody else. I am suffering from a decision that my mind made to suffer, believing that it would produce something of value for me. It would get me what I want. And they have done the same thing as well. Okay. Now, okay, beautiful. All right. Well, let me see how much. Okay, we only have. All right. Well, then I'm going to just finish this last paragraph 4, and then we're going to stop the class. We may go a little bit over today. And because I've got some announcements, but all right, here we go. And it says that the transfer value of this one true idea has no end or limit. Okay. So there's nothing that this idea can't heal. Nothing. There's nothing that this true idea about the real cause and effect, that there's nothing that it can't heal. It's so powerful. And the final outcome of this lesson of what's true cause and effect is the remembrance of God. And what do guilt and sickness, pain and disaster and all suffering mean now? Having no purpose, all the guilt, sickness, pain, disaster, and suffering, they are gone. And with all the pain, sickness, disaster, and suffering, with them also go all the side effects they seem to cause. Cause and effect only replicate creation. And so if you see cause and effect in their proper perspective, the mind is the cause and the body is the effect, then this cause and effect relationship reestablish heaven. So see cause and effect in their proper relationship. The mind is cause and the body is effect. And then that awareness reestablishes heaven, which means the end of suffering. All right. So we have finished that section. That is so beautiful. And thank you guys for your feedback and your questions. It's awesome. And Tony says you can live in God's penthouse or the ego's crazy house. The choice is yours. Exactly. You can experience the suffering that you believe others have done to you, or you can experience the power of your mind to decide on whatever you're experiencing and experience the freedom and the joy and the peace that Creator has willed for all of us, that Creator wants for all of us. Right? That it's your choice. All right. Yes. Beautiful. Okay. So guys, I just want to do a couple of announcements and then maybe a couple minute integration meditation. But the first announcement I want to make is I want to tell you about me and Dr. Carla's next monthly Course in Miracles play shop happening June 21st. This is our third one. And this is every month at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center. Dr. Carla and I are doing a play shop where we're taking the ideas of the Course and playing with them in their application in our lives so that we can experience the miracles of healing and abundance and joy and connection that results when you do so. And the next one is called Abundant Living Through Community. And so this workshop is all about what the Course in Miracles talks about, where as we join with others in a loving purpose, that it is what opens up the doors to abundance in our life. Abundance on all levels, body, mind, and spirit. The Course in Miracles talks about that joining is creation, and that joining is how we create. Joining is how we release ourselves from the guilt and the fear that is the source of this sickness. And so we're going to learn about joining, and we're going to practice joining, and going to look at all the obstacles that we've learned to joining so that we can join in more loving, peaceful relationships and experience the abundance that comes from that. So, and then it's a pay what you can, 33, 44, 55, or 66. And if that's something that you're interested in doing, it's in person at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center in Denver. And if you're interested in that, then you see that there is a QR code here, or you can reach out to me you could go to my website and send a message to me. There's my website right there. So if you're interested in that, let me or Dr. Carla know. And also, I've got on the screen my new website, divinerevolutionarq.com. And this is a way to access, you can learn more about my holistic counseling practice, miracle psychotherapeutics. You can access my writings. I post blogs and memes regularly. It's where I post my Course in Miracles recordings. And also it is the members of my website. There's two different tiers of being a member of my website. One of the tiers of being a member on my website is monthly Zoom sessions where we're just talking truth together, a Course in Miracles support group, if you will. So that's one of the benefits of being a VIP member on my website. Another benefit of being a member on my website is you can access my classes and past classes and my Course in Miracles recordings. So go check it out, divinerevolutionarq.com, and I look forward to connecting more deeply with you through that. So, that is that. And nice, as I admire loyalty to ACN, you are a really fluent teacher. Make it easy to understand the Course's lessons through your teaching. Thank you. Stay groovy. Thank you. I really, truly appreciate that, Naya. I really do. Thank you. All right. Well, let's just take maybe 60 seconds and just breathe. And do this. Okay. All right, guys. So if you are able, I want you to close your eyes and take a breath and just breathe. And I'm just going to say a few of these ideas to you so that we giving us a chance to just use them, apply them. So first, I just want you to take a breath and breathe. And notice how you feel having heard these ideas. How does it feel to have heard these ideas? And how does it feel to be hearing these ideas in a circle of mighty companions? And just notice how it feels to hear these ideas, even if you don't understand them, even if you have resistance to them. How does it feel to hear them? All right. So let's just do a couple minutes of some application. Now I want you to bring to your awareness a situation or a relationship right now where you are experiencing some suffering, body, mind, or spirit. Where is it that you are experiencing sickness, which is suffering, which is pain in some form? All right. Now, I want you to look at this situation or relationship in your mind, and I want you to just do a quick inventory in terms of looking at what is it that you thought was the cause of your suffering in this situation? Was it a person, place, or thing? The world? What is it that your ego had been telling you was the cause of your suffering? And be honest. Did you think it was this person? Did you think it was just the way the world is? Did you think it was your shame that was the cause of this problem, this suffering? What is it that you thought was the cause of your suffering? What besides a decision that you made in your mind did your ego tell you was the cause of the effect of your suffering? And now notice, did your interpretation of the cause of your suffering reduce your suffering? Did the cause that you ascribed to this problem end the problem? Did your suffering cease when you identified the cause outside of your own mind? Or did your problem increase? Did your suffering increase? Now, I want you to ask yourself as honestly and answer as honestly as you can, what was the payoff that you were hoping would come of this suffering? What were you hoping that this suffering might afford you? If this suffering was a decision of your mind, why is it that your mind might have been using it? If this suffering is a faulty problem-solving approach, like this section said it is, what is it that your ego was using your suffering to accomplish? Was it trying to get sympathy? Was your ego hoping that somebody would feel guilty from your suffering, guilty enough to do what you wanted them to do? Ask yourself honestly, what is the payoff to me in this suffering, in this problem? What's the payoff? What is the payoff I was hoping would come of this suffering so that I'm not suffering for nothing? And now I want you to look to see what are the physical remedies that you have been using to bring about a physical healing to this problem. What is it you've been physically doing or using to fix or resolve this problem? What is it that you've been doing to solve this problem besides looking at your own mind and why you and how you could have chosen this and why you may have decided for this? What besides your mind have you been using to remedy this situation? Beautiful. Now I want you to tell yourself the truth about it. Even though you don't believe it, just say it. I chose to suffer in this way, believing that this problem, this suffering, this pain would bring me something of value. Tell yourself, I thought that this suffering would be a small price to pay for something of greater worth. Tell yourself, this sickness is my decision, my election. Tell yourself, even if you don't believe it, this sickness, this problem, this suffering is a choice of weakness in the mistaken conviction that it would make me strong somehow. And that was just a mistake. And a mistake is not a sin. And mistakes are for correction. And take a breath. And now I want you to tell yourself, there is no gain at all to me in this suffering anymore. There is no gain at all to me in this suffering anymore. And I decide for peace and joy right now. I want you to tell yourself, it is my mind that decided on this problem. And now I am deciding with my mind that my mind is the cause of all that I experience. And I choose only sinlessness and forgiveness and love right now. And breathe. Tell yourself, this problem was just a faulty problem-solving approach that I decided on, and I changed my mind. Tell yourself, I accept that this sickness was a decision of my mind for which my mind was using my body. Now, when you decide that, you are healed of sickness in all forms. This sickness was a decision of my mind for which my mind was using my body. And it was a mistake, and I am innocent. And now I choose, I decide for sinlessness and guiltlessness as my only reality. I am not a victim of the world I see. I am as God created me. I am powerful. I am creative. And I choose only the sinlessness and guiltlessness in which God has created everyone and everything. And breathe. I am not a body, I am free, for I remain exactly as God created me, powerful forever. Beautiful. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your honest questions. Thank you for sharing this class on your social media, whatever that is. Um, Thank you on behalf of the world that you have helped today in watching this class. Truly, this is how we heal the world. We join with others. We listen to the truth about ourselves, and we join with others listening to the truth about ourselves, because when we do that, it extends to all the world. And this is how we heal the world. So on behalf of all the world that you are joining in healing today, thank you. You are the light of the world. I appreciate you all, and I will see you next time I see you.